Hey Colin, I'm taking a look at your paper right now. I would say your abstract needs to be longer. The words Punnett Square, Punnett Square should always be capitalized. And then you have Jennifer Lawrence and I, so make that a little more clear. That's a little awkward how you have this right here. But in your abstract, you want to start with something along the lines of to determine, to determine the likelihood of a child looking more like one parent over the other. One can use Punnett squares, phenotypes, etc., 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 all that kind of stuff. So make your abstract a little more thorough. I would be, sorry, I just got a message and then I had to take a look at. I would take a look at the exemplar paper that I put up for you guys. That's going to be a lot of help for you here. And hold on just one sec. Okay, and then also remember to, abstract should be on its own page. So as you're going through here, just here, go to Insert, so go up to the top, okay, if you can see it, but Insert Page Break. So it begins at the top of its own page. And then make sure that this is materials and methods. Then results. If it ends up being here at the end of a page like this, just go ahead and return and have it together with the paragraph it belongs with. Whoa, that was weird. Don't put that extra spacing in there. And then, let's see. Okay, we worked on those in class, so I know you'll have those correct. Just kind of going through real quick. Make sure everything, because even though you have graph 1, graph 2, make sure everything is Times New Roman. And then start the images on their own page too. So have all the graphs one section, the images the other, and I would flip-flop those simply because you're going to be referring to those images first, because the images are going to be in the materials and methods section, and then the Punnett squares will be in the results section. So have them in the different order. And okay, you do have everything. Awesome. Great. And then just, there we go. Go back into your paper here for a minute. Okay. Oop, sorry. Scrolling all over the place here. Okay, I already talked about the abstract. Traits just such as... Okay, if you want to put this off with commas, put traits, comma, such as genotypes and phenotypes, comma, are passed down and possessed by offspring. I find a better way of explaining that is a little confusing. Such offspring, such, what do you mean such? That's usually referring to something you've already said, and so we don't know what, like, I'm not sure which offspring you're talking about. And genotypes from both parents. Shown traits from the offspring's parents are called observable traits is what you want to use. Use the correct term. Whatever term is used, and that would be an observable trait. Again, phenotypes are you say shown traits from the offspring's parents are called phenotypes. So this is, this sentence is kind of redundant. Put those two together. Genotypes on the other hand, comma, on the other hand, are not visible to the naked eye. However, they are visible when tested for genes within the organism. Alleles are present for either genotypes or phenotypes. Okay, alleles are present. Well, what you need to do is make sure that you're clearly explaining the difference between a genotype and a phenotype. A phenotype is an observable genetic trait. A genotype is that specific pairing of alleles. So, a phenotype would be brown eyes, whereas a genotype would be big B, little b, or big B, big B. And it's always a good idea to use an example when you're explaining these things because it makes it so much easier for people to follow. I'm just reading, so that's why there's all the quietness. I think you mean was based off of, I would say was based on Gregor Mendel's work. It's not the premises. It was based off a study where he did these things. Be more specific when you're talking about genetics. You know, I would actually start with Mendel, because the fact is that Mendel's the one who started it all. So talk more about Mendel. Have a different paragraph for Mendel and a different paragraph for Punnett. So again, I'm going to give you the same kind of comments, which is it's clarity. I'm having a hard time following what it is you're trying to tell me. You've got the right information in there. It's the way that you're presenting the information that's very difficult to follow. Okay, so, and I would say that you chose 3 observable genetic traits that you did not have in common. Okay, good. So you're going through, this is how I gather the information. Okay, good. This part is better as far as clarity goes. Good. Put capital G's. So capital G and capital I, just keep it the same all the way through. I wouldn't say visibly curly hair, or visible unattached earlobe. 75%. I would say 75% of our children. I mean, you could say that, or you could say that the child would have a 75% chance of a visible. I'm sorry, a 75% chance of an unattached earlobe and a 25% chance of an attached earlobe. Second Punnett square round was curly versus straight hair. The results were that a child had a 50%, or the offspring, our offspring would have a 50% chance of curly hair and a 50% chance of straight hair. The third Punnett square, that's fine, was longer second toe versus shorter second toe, and that the results came back that the offspring had a 100% chance of a longer second toe, because you're talking about the phenotypes, yeah. The fourth graph, talk about what the difference is about those 2 graphs too. Had a 50% chance of a longer second toe, and then then talk about the fact that what you're looking at, and so then the averaging those 2 Punnett squares together, 75-25 is what I would do. I would say after all Punnett squares were ran, the results that came back were that an offspring from Jennifer and I, or if you want to say, you would say my and Jennifer's children, would look more like me than her. Okay, so your discussion needs to be longer, because first you're just talking about the results. In the discussion, you're going to want to talk about each one of these. if the first one was 75% chance of unattached earlobe, then you're going to say that, which means that, you know, whoever had the unattached earlobe, I can't remember which one of you it was, you know, it would look more like the trait of attached versus unattached earlobe would mean that, you know, for this trait, the child would look more like so-and-so. For this, you know, then for the second one, this trait was even, 50-50. And for the last one, you know, averaging the two Punnett squares together, 75% chance of a longer toe. See what I'm saying? That's how you want to talk about it. And then say, this means that when you look at the three traits, because you have, let's see, who's who? So she has the attached earlobe, and you've got the unattached, and you've got the longer toe, which means that it's more likely that it's going to look like you, right? Isn't that what you came up with? Okay, the hair's 50-50. You've got a 75% chance of the unattached, which is you. And if you average the two together, so you've got a 100% chance second toe or 50-50. So I would average that to be like a 75-25. So it would actually come out to look more like you, right? Am I not looking at this right? I don't know. Think about that. Hopefully I'm looking at this correctly. So the discussion needs to be a little bit longer as well. Okay, if you've got questions, let me know. I really highly suggest looking at the exemplar paper. I put it up there because it really is a great model for you to kind of say, how long, you know, what do I have in mind? Is it matching what's in here? Because it should really be matching what's in there. And really work on that clarity, especially when you're talking about those more complicated, you know, genotype, phenotype things. I know it's complicated information, but that's one of the things you're going to have to practice writing about, is making something that's complicated very clear. If you have any questions, let me know.